You know, we have Fort Leonard Wood in our district, great Army military institution, as well as Whiteman Air Force Base. So these concerns are my concerns because they're my constituents' concerns. Sergeant Major Black, I want to start with you because you talked about the desire. The desire is just not there. Do we have the recruitment numbers yet for the Army for 23? I hear they're up a little bit from the year before.
So I'll defer to the Sergeant Major of the Army to give you specific numbers, but the understanding is the Army has not met their numbers that they needed, no.
Go ahead, Sergeant Major Weimer.
Congressman, they were up a little bit, but they're not where they need to be.
Right. They were up like 10% from the deficit that we had before, correct? So we are making some headway. So, hey, that's a little bit of good news. What, Sergeant Major Black, why is the desire not there then? Is it have to do with the quality of life issues that we're talking about today, or is it some other factor?
Yes, and others. Obviously, the value of proposition to serve our nation has to be strong enough that it will draw people into our ranks. And that, in quality of life, is one of those values of service. Education benefit, serving your nation. Then we get into specifics. Quality of housing, availability of housing. Do I make enough income to balance if I can have the same type of career in the civilian sector? Now, I mentioned in my opening comments a much broader view of that as well. When you're a young person and you're going through high school, how much of the job market opportunity you have is focused on, hey, and serving your nation is also a good career? Or is that seen a little like, well, if you can't get another job, then maybe you need to join your military? It's just how we say it. Access for recruiters to get into our schools and universities and colleges right now, in some places, is still strained. In other words, there are not recruiters that can get after populations that may want to be in the military, but they don't have access to recruiters because they still can't get into those places. I'll go so far as to say, you know, how senior leaders talk about those who serve in the military. We focus a lot on the bad things that occur in society, which is also going to occur in the military, rather than talk about the tens of thousands of Americans right now that are forward deployed, protecting our national defense, supporting and defending our Constitution. It's a very powerful message. Hollywood, media, you name it, the narrative on service to our nation are service in communities of any kind, not real popular job opportunities. So for all of those things to kind of turn and reverse and think about, if nothing else, the Constitution is worth defending, it's worth giving a career and a life to, or a portion of that career lifespan that you have, is a valuable opportunity. Yes, quality of life is part of that, but it's much more broader on the narrative. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sergeant Major Weimer, back to you. You know, we're building a hospital at Fort Leonard Wood. We're very excited about that. I've heard concerns from numerous people that we don't have the staffing we need for that hospital. How do we compete with the private sector and adequately staff that hospital?
Thank you for that question, and it's absolutely a concern for us, such a concern for all of us right now, and it is also a concern for DHA, who's responsible for a lot of that. But it's also, it speaks a little bit to some of the recruiting, the competitive nature right now to staff those hospitals, the competition of the talent in the medical industry. We're trying to surge people into those facilities, but for the Army in particular, those are the same people that are in our combat units. And so there's a bit of a, there's good time for a 68 Whiskey, which is a combat medic in the Army, to spend in the clinic, but then there's just as good amount of time for them to be with their unit out in the field, training on their basic warfighting skills. And so we're trying to balance that, because that awesome hospital, beautiful, it won't be nearly what it needs to be if it's not staffed properly. It's a little bit of the CDC conversation, a little bit there, for the ability to get the employees in there.
Real quick, the Future Soldier Prep course, we hope to visit Fort Jackson coming up soon. Is this program going to be expanded? We would like to have that at Fort Leonard Wood. We think we have the perfect setting for an expansion of this program.
Yes, Congressman, it's going to continue. The Secretary and the Chief have made the decision that if we need to expand it, we absolutely will. But right now we don't have the demand. But we're ready as soon as the demand, to the other discussion, starts to go up.
Thank you. Thank you for all being here. I yield back.
Thank you. Now